Now, I don't know if you've ever tried this, but it is so hard to just stop doing something by just trying to just stop doing it. Instead, what I've found in my life and with all my clients is that you have to find something else to replace it with, even if that's an activity that kind of looks like nothing. It's why, for example, in previous videos, I've talked a lot about replacing the word sorry with the word thank you. And that whole notion is all about if you say sorry too much, well, there's issues associated with that and people would like to generally apologize less. But saying, oh, I'm just going to stop doing that now, doesn't really work. Instead, if you find a different thing to do instead of, then if you ever catch yourself doing that thing, you can go, oh, thank you. And I have a whole video on that, but this applies for so many other things too. And I'll give you an example of where I first learned this. It's a bit whatever. I used to do a lot of modeling and I did some calendar modeling and things like that. And one of the things that I used to do, I was in really quite fantastic shape. And the way that I got in that shape, I used to do a lot of gymnastic rings training, like the Olympic rings. One of the things that's very interesting about Olympic rings is that you do this thing, it's called the false grip. And you sort of put the ring, you don't even really hold it with your hand, you sort of curl over so that it's like wedged into this part, and that lets you like push over around it. It's this weird thing, it's called a false grip, whatever. But what it meant that a lot of my training, I was doing this. Like I'd do pull-ups like this with this weird grip thing. And then what would happen is we would do these shoots and I might take my shirt off or whatever and the cameraman would be there and he'd go, okay, Jack, flex. And I go, yeah. And I'd flex everything and try and hit that pose. And my hand would go like this. So I'd be standing there just with my arm like, even if it was straight, my arm would just be like this. One of the photographers that I worked with once said that it looked like I was trying to do something to a gentleman behind me. Anyway, for a very, very, very long time, I would hear, stop doing this, stop doing this. None of it worked because I'd try so hard and I'd be like, okay, don't do this. All right, gonna make sure that I keep my hand open and then I'll flex my arms and oof. It was just happening because I was so used to it. And the internal cue to stop doing it had no traction. Because in the absence of me, if I was only thinking about not doing it, fine. But the second that my attention went elsewhere, it would just occur. Now this might happen to you for all sorts of things. Maybe you keep coming home and you have a drink in the evening, or you can't stop scrolling on YouTube, Instagram Reels or whatever it is. You can't stop and you've tried to just stop, but that doesn't seem to work. Now, what worked for me? Instead of just trying to stop doing this one day, one of the people that I was, taking instruction from, he said, hey Jack, why don't you make your hands like this? Just like a fairly neutral way to hold your hands. And instead of trying to flex everything, and then in doing so this would happen, I would try and flex everything while trying very hard to keep my hands in a particular position that would kind of look like neutral. And the effect was that it worked. I looked like a normal human being instead of some weird dude. Which is kind of what was happening before. So that single experience actually taught me so much. And so that's why so often I don't just tell people once they've identified a behavior that they're doing that they want to stop. I don't just say, cool, we're done here. You just stop doing that now. Good luck, because we all know that's not going to go anywhere. Instead, it's very useful to come up with a different thing that they can do. For example, I guess, these are very case specific, but if someone were in the position of every time they'd come home after work, they'd have a beer. Well, what if we said, okay, every time you go to the fridge and you reach for the beer, go outside and do 10 push-ups. Or do 3 minutes of yoga. And that's It seems a bit strange, but giving a person a thing to do instead of the thing that they're subconsciously and automatically doing is wicked at reprogramming things. Even if they found that accidentally they've already had a few sips and go, oh, what am I doing? Put it down, go do, 3 downward dog, and then a vinyasa, I don't know, something like that. And then they'll come back and they'll realize it's enough to just pull us out of that subconscious automatic pattern. So, how can you use this? Well, if there's anything that you have been trying to do, or more importantly, stop doing, and it hasn't been gaining traction, think of something else that you could do instead. And it doesn't need to be related, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be like a healthy thing, like, doing yoga or whatever. It could just be go and touch some grass, or every time I do this, I want to, instead, I go and lick the wall. That's a dumb example, but it's a perfect example. If every time you reach for a beer, you go, oh, no. That will pull you out, and then from there you're back in control. You're out of the subconscious automatic. You've intentionally done a thing, and then you can decide, do I want the beer? Do I want to choose to do it? Or do I want to choose to do something else? But it puts you back in the driver's seat. And that is so important, and it's a thing that doesn't happen if we're just telling ourselves to stop doing something. All that does is if we do it, we go, oh, I suck because I did the thing I'm supposed to stop. It doesn't get us anywhere. But if instead, if you notice you're doing it, you start doing a different thing, you're back in the driver's seat. The power that this gives you cannot be overstated. Use it wisely, but use it liberally. It's a great tool, it's a great technique. Just don't lose track of how many different things you're replacing with different things. Good luck. And if you find this effective, let me know down in the comments, or even better, right now, you might choose to write the behavior that you're going to stop and the thing that you're going to replace it with. And if you want, I can even give you some feedback, whether it's a good or a not so, or if there's a better replacement you might like to consider. It's YouTube. No one knows who you are. Go nuts. Have fun. Say whatever. I don't know. I won't judge you. Look forward to seeing what you may write. Thank you again for your time. This brings us to the end of today's video. If you liked what I discussed, my style, me, whatever, and you want to see more, well, tune in and hit subscribe, because I make a new video every single day. If you want to be the first to see what I talk about tomorrow, hit subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.